County.
Welcome to Grey County Life. I'm your host today, Mary J. Murray, and Rhonda is off today, and we're really looking forward to her being back next week. And once again, this is your favorite lifestyle magazine show on Rogers TV. Well, today I want to talk about something that's really important that's coming up, particularly on November 11th, and that is Remembrance Day. And I think that it's really important that we always take the time to stop on November 11th and have that moment of silence, because we can never take our democracy for granted. It's precious, it can disappear. But what we're doing on November 11th is that we are acknowledging the courage and the sacrifice of so many men and women who, from the Canadian Armed Forces over generations, have fought to keep Canada safe and participated in the theater of war in many parts of the world. And what is so important is that, particularly for our younger generation, to truly understand how important it is that the sacrifices that the men and women did over the generations, protecting our democracy and our countries, how significant and meaningful that is. And one of the things that our community, Grey and Bruce counties, have done over the years is they have made great strides in capturing the stories of so many of our war men and women who participated in World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and then of course there's Afghanistan, Iraq, and some of the Canadian soldiers who are now participating and helping out with the war in Ukraine. It is the sacrifice not only of the men and women, but also of their families. So on November 11th, please check in with your local Canadian Royal Canadian Legions in your communities to find out what their celebration is going to be, their remembrance is going to be on that day, and participate. If you're not able to attend, there's always the production of on Ottawa, to watch that on television, or just throughout your day to take a moment of a minute of silence, just out of respect for what the men and women have done. The other thing too is, when I mentioned that our community really is capturing so many of the stories, is also the Billy Bishop Museum and honoring their local veterans. Now that event has passed, but for 22 years now they have been honoring local veterans, whether posthumously or in person, and engaging their family members as well in telling the stories of the family as a whole, not only just of the soldiers and the women who participated, whether they were soldiers or whether they were Army nurses and that sort of thing. So the Billy Bishop Museum has honored, once again, many of the armed forces that have been anchored here locally. Grey County Museum has had their display as well, and Bruce County Museum is also having a display. Now, I also come from a military background. My great-grandfather, and my father never knew his father, because he was killed in World War I. But my other grandfather not only fought in World War I, but was also recommissioned for World War II. My father-in-law, his brother, my Uncle George as well, my Uncle Cobb as well, and my dad, all were soldiers in World War II. Both my grandfathers were in World War I. So one of the things that I do through the month of November is I set up a photo gallery of all my family members in their uniforms, looking so handsome and so young. And I put them on display so that we have them as a remembrance through the month of November. Now, there are a couple of other things that are happening as well. Is the library is set up now through the month of November. It's called Thank You Veterans, and they're making Valentines. And this is with the youth department. Now, Valentine's seems like a long way away in February, but through the month of November, the library is encouraging through their youth department to actually write thank yous and Valentines for veterans, and then they will be mailed to Veterans Canada, Veterans Affairs Canada, and will be distributed on Valentine's Day. And what a lovely, thoughtful gesture. And of course, it's now also time to be wearing your poppies. The poppy campaign has already started, and the funds that are raised through the poppy campaign are really important to providing and funding services. One of the things that my family and I do at Christmas time is that we always write Christmas cards to a veteran, to someone serving overseas at this time, and we send them to Canada Affairs to be distributed. So please take the time on November 11th, lest we forget.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Sometimes it's hard to say goodbye to an old friend. But when you're saying farewell to your vehicle, Kidney Car makes it fast and easy. Just call or visit our website. We'll take any vehicle in any condition and give you a tax receipt for a minimum of $300. No headaches and no towing charges. It's the one-stop solution for getting rid of your unwanted vehicle in just a few short minutes. When your vehicles reach the end of the road, call us toll-free or visit kidneycar.ca.
Donations to the War Amps have a lasting impact on amputees. Today, your support gives them the artificial limbs and resources they need for everyday activities and learning to live with amputation. Having access to our essential programs helps amputees prepare for tomorrow on their road to independence. The War Amps is committed to improving the quality of life for Canadian amputees, but this wouldn't be possible without you. To learn how your donation helps, visit waramps.ca.
Welcome back to Grey County Life on Rogers TV. I'm flying solo today, Mary Jane Murray. And I have the pleasure of interviewing our next guest because he is just so much fun. And we had quite a conversation before we came on set. And it's my pleasure to introduce the artistic director for the Georgian Bay Concert Choir, Reitamm.
Norman Reitamm.
Norman Reitamm. I was really focused on the last name, so sorry,
You got
Norman.
it right.
Right. Okay, thank you. And tell us about the Georgian Bay Concert Choir and how you became engaged in that.
The Georgian Bay Concert Choir is a group of wonderful musicians who like getting together once a week to do some singing. And they range in age from teenagers to people of, how do they say in French, un certain âge. And it's a mixed voice choir with sopranos, altos, tenors, and basses. And we do repertoire from jazz to serious classical music. And for instance, this upcoming concert that we have at the end of the month with the Sultans of String, we're doing a lot of what's known as world music. And it's going to be a reflection of where we've come since I've arrived as music director for the choir, and insofar as the training that we've done. And for instance, we're doing some traditional carols, and Sultans are doing some of their arrangements. And I understand that Sultans of String are very well known in this area too. And I thought that instead of doing a sort of a traditional shall we say, lessons and carols kind of choir concert where everybody just comes up and we do a singing thing, and then people do some readings or something like that. I thought that we just mix it up a little bit and throw different traditions in. And I remember as a young boy growing up at Christ Church Cathedral in Hamilton, we did this annual liturgy called the Lessons and Carols. And I did a little bit of a take on that, but I really wanted to make sure that this was something very special to the Georgian Bay area, the Owen Sound area, and combining music that people are all familiar with and that people can come and just enjoy. Now, going back to your question about what the choir is all about, they're all amateur singers in the choir, so I have to make sure that there is a little bit of something for everybody in there, that and that the training that we do is really gets people learning about music. And because it's very frustrating for people to come into a choral situation and the conductor just gives them the music and, okay, you have to sing it. And for me, the issue is, how do people go about learning the music? And this is so important for me. And the process that I've used since I've come to the choir is one of how do we get people to sing? How do we give people knowledge how to sing? What is the training required? And then all this leading up through the I hate to say the end of COVID, because we're not at the end of COVID, but when I first came, there was, we couldn't get together because of government regulations. And now I've had to, I guess there's been a training process for the choir all the way through from where I've come to what is going to be presented at the end of November. And this will be sort of a culmination of all of this in vocal technique, repertoire, and also enjoyment of music, which is so important for everybody in the choir. And not only the choir, but also the audience. So we've got to, the audience really, I really want people to feel, well, this is why we're calling the concert a kitchen party, a Christmas kitchen party, that people get together, they tell stories around in the kitchen, they sing songs, and I think Sultans of String are just going to be wonderful for this.
Well, it sounds like so much fun. So give us the details on the date, the time, the place, and the cost.
The concert is on the last Saturday in this month, so which is the 26th of November. And the place will be the Harmony Center in Owen Sound. Tickets will be, go to the Georgian Bay Concert Choir website, and tickets will be available through there and also through Eventbrite. And to be honest, I can't remember what the ticket prices are right now.
Well, but
so
I can help you.
You may be able to help me with that.
I can help you with that. When I checked it out, it was $30. Oh, and they have
oh, there it is.
on the screen. Isn't that great?
Technology is wonderful.
Aren't we efficient? $30 for adults and $15 for children or young adults. So that is very affordable.
Absolutely.
Lovely,
yes.
Lovely for a family. One of the things I did want to ask you though, because singing is not all just the vocals. Apparently there's some kind of breathing strategy in this, because I remember when my mother joined a choir, there was all this breathing that she was doing in preparation for the singing.
Well, you can't sing without breathing.
But it's not the same.
I know. The issue is this, is that if you're, let's say you're playing the trumpet or the saxophone or whatever, you have to suck in a lot of air and you have to blow it out the instrument, and otherwise the instrument won't sound. And the voice is exactly the same thing. That, and I won't terrorize your audience by singing, because I'm not a singer myself, but if you don't breathe, then you have nothing to support the voice. And let's say I were, well, in a conversation with you, or let's say I'm doing some public speaking, if I'm just going like this and people can't hear me, then there's nothing will happen. But if you take in a deep breath and you project the voice out, then the audience will hear what you're doing. And a lot of people start singing and they do this, and nobody hears the voice. And if you listen to the larger choirs, let's say Toronto Mendelssohn Choir, or just recently we had the Elmer Eisler Singers here in this area, in Thornbury, that even when they're singing quietly, there's actually a lot of sound coming out. And I lived in England for a little while and visited some of the big cathedrals there. And you listen to these choirs, and you will notice again that if they're singing quietly, then they're actually making quite a bit of sound to fill the room with music. And this is one thing that I've really tried to stress with the Georgian Bay Concert Choir, is the concept of healthy singing. That if you don't breathe properly, if you don't support the sound of the choir, then you'll get this very strained sound, and it'll affect the vocal cords, and you'll put a lot of stress on the vocal cords, and you'll get what's known as nodes on the vocal cords, which isn't a good thing for either speakers or singers. And this is one thing that ever since I came to the choir that I really try to stress, that we're doing this in a healthy and sound, pun intended, manner. And so that people aren't stressed, and that when they go home, that they're not saying, "Oh, Norman, that really hurts my voice, and my throat hurts," and that's not good singing. I really want to stress that when you come to the Georgian Bay Concert Choir, it really is a matter of learning how to sing in a healthy manner.
Well, that's really interesting. I've never heard it described in that manner before, but it's really reassuring. Because we're a community that really promotes healthy living and healthy lifestyle and that sort of thing. But at the beginning of the conversation, you mentioned that these were amateur singers.
Yes.
And so if you're an amateur singer and you really have not had a lot of experience singing, how do they become engaged with Georgian Bay Concert Choir?
What you do is you look up our website and you give us a call or send us an email, and the email will come through to me, and I will ask a few questions to see what your background, what your experience is. And if you don't have much experience, we use what's known as the buddy system, that will place you with one of our more experienced singers who will say, this is where we are, this is how we're doing this. And one thing that we did when I first came to the choir is that we ran a program before rehearsals called Music 101. That we took music and put it down to very basic levels, so that people started understanding the basic elements of how to read music and what goes on in a rehearsal, and a little bit of ear training, that what is an interval, what when Norman says sing a minor third or a perfect fourth, then they'll say, oh, we know how to do that now. And so, which is very important, because when a choir is singing together, you have to listen, you have to understand what's going on around you. And this Music 101 program really, I guess it was a turn the light on moment for a lot of people, because so many people come to choirs and they think that, oh, we'll just learn it by rote, and that the choir master or the pianist will just thump the notes out, and that is, in the long run, that's really difficult for any choir, because you will learn mistakes and you will not know how to get out of that. But if you learn even the basic elements of reading music, which is what we stress at Georgian Bay, that it's the understanding of the music, and again, how to perform music, again, in a healthy manner. That if you're putting stress on the brain or the mind, then that's not good. If you learn just even the basic elements of how to sing, technically how to breathe, how to read music a little bit, then in the long run, you'll find that you'll enjoy your singing a lot more, and you'll be able to the choir will function a lot better in that sense.
Well, I can see from the light in your eyes and the expression on your face how much you're enjoying being the artistic director.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, that's very obvious. But at the same time, what is the number of participants in the choir, and what is the ideal number?
There is no ideal number.
Oh, okay.
I think right now we have approximately 45 people in the choir, which is a wonderful size. However, what I'd love to see is the choir getting up to around 55, 60 people in the choir.
Oh, so there's room here for more people to become engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm looking for is to have a larger ensemble in this area, so that we can partner with the Georgian Bay Symphony and do some work with them. It will be a matter of growth for us insofar as getting up to those numbers. But I think, again, with the training that we're offering, and the camaraderie that we're offering in the choir, we've got the best chocolate chip cookies around at break. And
well, that's important. Food.
Oh, absolute
food.
Food and singing, it goes hand in hand, so that so that we can do stuff with the Georgian Bay Symphony, and also that we are a center of excellence, and also for people coming to this area, that we have a wonderful choir, that people don't want to go to Toronto from here on a weekly basis for rehearsals, and you have choirs like the Toronto Mendelssohn Choir, Toronto Orpheus Choir, Hamilton Bach Elgar. And I'm seeing our choir as a complement to those larger ensembles.
Wow. And what kind of age range are your membership, and what would you like to encourage in terms of age?
Oh, I'd love to encourage teens and 20-somethings, but anybody who loves singing is certainly welcome to come out and enjoy the choir. Right now we have, as I said before, membership from 20 years old up to people of, as I said, un certain âge.
I think I fit in that category.
Well, I do too. So everybody is welcome, and for a good time making music and enjoying the social aspect of singing, which is so important.
Well, I think that there's so much gratification. I always remember my mother being so excited about going out to her choir, not necessarily for all of the reasons around it, but certainly the friendships, I think, are really important as well. So Dan has just indicated, Dan, our cameraman, he's very proficient here, has indicated that we're coming close to the end of the conversation. But you are a man of many talents. And we had this brief conversation about one of your other talents. And do you want to just mention that briefly?
Well, in addition to being a musician, I'm also a commercial pilot, and I hold a flight instructor rating, and it's sort of my, what would you say, avocation, that it's not, it's more than a hobby, but it's not a profession for me. Originally, when I was going through university, I thought that I might go into the airlines as an airline pilot. But in those days, you had to have 20/20 vision, and nowadays you can have glasses and still become a pilot. And also in those days, they weren't hiring. And so I left aviation for a long time, and I revisited, and now I did a lot of work at the Brantford Flight Center, and that's actually where I'm going tomorrow to ferry an aircraft up to Hanover. And it's just completely different, and but on the same time, artistic.
Well, Norm, it has been such a pleasure to have this conversation with you, and thank you so much. And we look forward to the kitchen party, Christmas kitchen party that's coming up on November the 26th at 7:30 at the Harmony Center.
Yes.
Get your tickets, folks.
And we'll be square.
We'll be back right after these messages.
Johnny wanted to go back home. It was 1,000 kilometers away. They forced him to go to the Indian residential school. More than 150,000 of us children had to go. They wanted to change us.
Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name.
Hallowed be your name.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done.
Thy will be done.
Kill the Indian and the child. It's been called cultural genocide. I survived residential school. My brother Johnny did not.
Chani Wenjack was one of thousands of children who died due to Canada's residential school system. More than 80,000 survivors and their families still live with its legacy today.
Hi, I'm David Sherman, host of Politically Speaking on Rogers TV. Join me for my next show where my guest will be Rick Byers, MPP for Bruce Grey Owen Sound. Politically Speaking on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Grey County Life, and we're continuing on with our next series of special guests today, and I am so pleased to welcome in a new role Renee Robbins, who is the president of the, I'm going to read this, Georgian Riding Association for Challenged Equestrians. And Renee is a frequent flyer with us because she's with the Owen Sound Animal Shelter, but today she is wearing a different hat as president of Grace. And so welcome, Renee, and now we're going to hear a whole other side of your life.
Absolutely. I wear many hats, and one of my roles is, of course, the president of Grace, which is a whole lot easier to say if you just call it Grace. Grace has been around for a period of time, over 30 years actually, and when it started, it was an association that worked mostly with children and young adults with physical disabilities, and it provided horse therapy to help people gain strength and mobility. Over the years, it's evolved with the times, and it is now an organization that we just refer to as helping people who struggle or who have difficulties using horse therapy. Those struggles can be emotional, they can be physical, they can be mental, and let's be honest, in the world we live in, who's not struggling? So we're open really to everybody, which is fantastic. Horse therapy back in the day was only a riding program, and now we can actually use horses on the ground as well. We have a program called Equine Assisted Learning, which happens without riding at all, in which you can use the horse to read your energy. It can help with anger control. Anybody who works with animals, I mean, this is how I got involved in the first place, knows that an animal will let you know right away how they feel about you. They're either happy with you or they hate you. And
yeah, my little experience with Snowball.
Snowball's still available, by the way. I mean, they let you know, and we can use that ability to help people better themselves. It's pretty cool. We also have introduced something called hippotherapy, and hippotherapy is not using hippopotamuses, it is using a horse, hippo being the Greek word for horse, and we have a physiotherapist that comes in, and our riders in those cases do yoga type movements in which they can exercise their body and balance their mind and work on their core strength using a physiotherapist and a horse. It's very cool. Few people know that in riding a horse, every part of your body is being stimulated. Everything from your bowels to your nervous system to your sense of smell to your sense of sight. And it can be one of the few activities that actually works everything all together without putting strain on your body. So in fact, we have riders who are wheelchair bound. Here's where things get weird, who actually can go off of their medications because they're riding. And the thing that makes it weird is that sometimes can help them poop. I don't know how to say it. It helps their things work the way that they should, which is huge, because if you think about it, if you weren't attending on those days and you weren't receiving that therapy and you couldn't do those things, you'd have a pretty unhappy life. Emotionally, we help people, but we also find as a volunteer base that our volunteers bring something back from it as well, which is what it's all about. When I started at the Grace program, my daughter was starting high school. She needed her volunteer hours, which is how it started. And I said, you know what? This would be a really cool thing for you to do because you have horse experience and you're good with people. And then we thought, you know what? Maybe Mom will come with you. And it just opened my eyes to a whole new world. I was an instructor. I am a riding instructor. Told you I have many hats, and am now instructing at the Grace Barn as well. Same sort of type of lessons. The difference is we sometimes have to coordinate them based on the rider's needs, which is something that we do anyway. The needs are just a little different. Been doing that. I've been a participant at the Grace Barn, is how we refer to it, for probably 8 to 10 years. But I've been on the board for 7, 8, and president for 5 now. I manage the animal shelter, as you all know. I'm quite used to managing things. People are a little trickier than animals, but it's what I do, and I've helped expand the program, which is super cool. This is my friend Amanda.
And yes, and we want to turn our attention to Amanda, and we are so grateful that you came, because Amanda, you're one of the riders. Tell us about your experience.
Well, I started back when I was 8, and been really well with the Grace program. I ride Tuesday nights at the Grace. I ride the horse named Abby. She's a really great horse. She loves to run around.
Amanda started when she was 8. She's one of our longer riders. She's 23 now, so she's been with us quite a long time. And when Amanda started riding, we're just a little tiny thing.
Not now.
You're still pretty tiny. But at that time, we were just working on building strength and coordination and balance. And you're competing now.
Yeah.
She's doing virtual horse shows and shows in which she's competing at an upper level. Independent riding.
Yeah, independent.
She doesn't need assistance anymore. In fact, Amanda's one of our, I'm going to brag about you now, she's one of our better riders who, she and Abby have developed a relationship. They've developed a partnership, and you understand each other pretty good, even on your quirky days and weird days, right? You work through it, and they've developed a unique bond in which they've become a team, which is very, very nice to see. It really is. Who did you ride before, Abby? Can you think that far back? Who else? Has it always been Abby?
It's always been Abby.
Always Abby?
Always Abby.
So you have a long relationship with Abby.
Yeah.
So there's something that Abby does for you, and what do you do for Abby?
We do a lot of things for Abby. Abby, I don't know, like...
Do you take care of her? Like,
yeah,
do you
I groom her after lessons.
Yeah.
I give her treats after every lesson. Groom her.
Yeah.
The horse and rider, I think you've become buddies. I think she looks forward to seeing you. I think she knows you as her person, right? One of her people.
Yeah.
Well, it's great that you have this really long-standing connection with your horse, and that she does for you what you do for her, and that is you're both building your sense of relationship. And look at that big smile on your face. Like, you can see that she has really lightened up your life as well, and changed it.
Yeah.
Now, how many volunteers, when you were starting, when you were 8, how many volunteers needed to work with you when you were on Abby?
When I started, I needed about maybe 2 sidewalkers and a leader when I first started. But now I don't need sidewalkers or leaders. I'm independent.
You're completely independent, and you are competing.
And now I'm competing.
And so the growth that you've had over these years in relation to your horse and your experience with Grace, that is amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Are you feeling really good about yourself in terms of what you've been able to achieve?
Really well.
Yeah. Oh, good. So what I'm seeing is that Grace is not only just that physical, rider experience, but it's your mental health, your physical health, and your social health, and your relationship building.
It is. We have expanded, of course, to include a lot of other programs that were not there before. As I said earlier, it's for people who struggle, really. We have a program through the Women's Center, through the Women's Shelter. We have a program with Children's Aid. We have a program with a crisis intervention team. And those are all persons who are dealing with trauma in their lives. We have a program in which we work with people with post-traumatic stress and anxiety and depression. And it's something that's unfortunately becoming quite popular. But what is happening is we can take someone who perhaps struggles emotionally and put them in with a group of other people that do as well, and they develop friendships. I mean, who doesn't love a horse anyway? But the people building is also happening. We have, again, persons who are dealing with trauma who have terrible days and they walk into that barn and climb on the back of the horse. And something that's important to know, and you know this, when you're riding a horse, you can't think about other stuff. Yeah. You got to focus on that horse, right? Yep. Or you're going to have a really bad ride. So you clear your mind, you take a deep breath, and you focus on what is being asked of you. I'm a horse rider myself, and to be honest, it's what I do with myself when I have a bad day. I go for a ride. And it's an important piece emotionally to be able to do that, but I mean, physically as well. We all know when you work out, you feel better, you get moving, you feel better. And the people who are helping us are getting the same benefits, because we get to see people like Amanda with that big smile on her face talking about her horse. I mean, how do you have a bad day looking at that, right? Yeah. Right? How do you? You can't. You can't. I mean, it is something that requires a lot of help. We talked about when Amanda started, she had 2 sidewalkers. We have visually impaired riders, completely blind. We have hearing impaired. We have persons who have CP who can't walk or sit up on their own without assistance, right? Yeah. And those riders, for example, will use someone who has CP, who can't sit up on their own. They require at least 4 volunteers. They need a horse leader. Let's be honest, you need somebody to do that part. You need 2 sidewalkers, and those are people who are physically able to hold someone on a horse. And additionally, we have usually another person in the standby, and that person's role is to pass off with the person whose arm's getting sore. So 1 rider in that case would require 4 volunteers, 4 confident volunteers and strong. In saying that, we have 30 riders. So that's a whole lot of volunteers. Now, some of them are like Amanda, who don't require the assistance, but to show you why we need so many volunteers. And we have a waiting list of riders to come in of 10 to 15 right now, who we can't bring in without those bodies to help. We have the horsepower, we have the horses, we have the facility, and we have the time of day to do it. It's the volunteers that need to make it happen. We are running program 6 days a week, evenings and Saturdays, and our hippo runs through the day, so we actually double up on some days. But we have room to expand if we have the volunteers. In saying that, I did mention we needed strong people, but they don't have to be. There is a role for everybody. We might have a lesson where you're throwing balls and hoop, right? We need somebody to pick up the balls, honestly. We may have a lesson in which it's on the ground and they're not riding. Those lessons don't require so many bodies, but it will require somebody to maybe keep a set of eyes on people, right? Somebody who's going to maybe say, hey, that saddle's slipping, right? Because that's important. Hey, the saddle's coming off. It's super important. We may just require somebody to interact. We might have someone who is nervous around men. We need some men in that group so they can start to connect. We may have somebody who maybe you don't like 23-year-old girls. Maybe not, right? So maybe we'd need some in your class to help you learn to integrate with them, your own age group. So there's all sorts of things that we're doing in the background, and so there is a role for everybody. It's just a matter of connecting it. I mean, on that note, maybe you're a retired carpenter. We got a barn. Right? We need help with that too. Maybe you're somebody who sold the farm and who misses clean and poop. I don't know why you would, but maybe you are. And you know what? We got a role for you too, right? Horses need brush, they need fed, stalls need done. These are all things that need to happen in that barn to keep it running. And maybe you want to answer the phone. Right? Call me, I'll find you a job. Right?
Well, the other piece to this is not only do you have, like, I'm just really blown away because I am learning so much from you around what Grace provides now. I used to know what Grace provided many years ago, but the programs have expanded.
They sure have.
Considerably, and this is really impressive. How do you keep the lights on? How do you fund this?
Please send money. No.
Oh, don't be shy.
In all seriousness, no, seriously. We're doing all right, which is good. Certainly there is funding that we get, thank goodness, through grants. I do apply for grants. I'm a grant writer as another hat. And we do require those to keep us open. There is a small fee that riders pay. In saying that, if you couldn't, we wouldn't kick you out. But we do have some borders as well, but it is always a game of, hopefully we can pay for this. Unlike other, we'll say, nonprofit organizations, we have live animals that require feed, that require care, veterinary care. We have a building that we need to keep the lights on, literally, to be able to operate. We spend a lot of money. It's expensive to house horses. It's expensive to run a barn. It's expensive to, we have a barn manager. She is paid. She has to be, let's be honest. Nobody wants to do that job, right, without money. She has a living too. So yes, donations are absolutely needed. We do hold fundraising events. We recently had a Reitathon, which raised us almost $7,000. It was our best ever. And we sold some T-shirts recently. Amanda's wearing one of them. And so we're always doing things like that. But by all means, keep us in mind if, end of year is coming and you want to make a donation. We absolutely need it. We need money. We need money. I mean, I'm not going to lie. We do. It's important to keep us operating.
Well, I'm astounded actually around all the not only services that you provide, but really when you start to think about it, yes, you need all that infrastructure,
sure do.
Funding just to support the animals and the barn structure and that sort of thing. And you're right in terms of other organizations don't necessarily have live animals that need to be well cared for, because if the animals are not well cared for, they can't do their job either.
You got it. Our horses are very special trained horses. We should mention that, right? For example, when a person rides a horse, normally you would kick your feet to make the horse go forward. Well, sometimes we have kids who have seizures and their legs spasm. That horse couldn't react to that, right? That would be a problem. You go fast. So they are very special trained horses. They do require special equipment, and additionally they require a little extra TLC. We have to make sure they've got the ideal weight. We have to make sure their feet are well maintained, because if their feet go, they can't walk. If they can't walk, they can't work. So they do require a little extra care even than your average horse. They get babied, don't they? They get babied, but they have to, because they have a job to do, and if they go down, we have a problem. Like, imagine Abby had a sore foot tomorrow. What would happen?
Oh dear. Oh, Amanda.
Right? Seriously, poor Amanda, for real.
Yeah,
you'd have to ride Rocky. Right?
Oh. Oof. And not quite the same relationship with Rocky. But this has been really informative, and I've really learned a lot today. And Amanda, I can't thank you enough for coming in today and telling your story. And thank you, Renee, for wearing a different hat today.
No problem at all.
Okay.
It is my pleasure.
And we'll be back right after these messages.
You did it.
Oh.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
When it comes to drugs, how much freedom is too much for kids?
Drugs are out there. Will my teen feel free to say no around other kids?
I didn't live drug-free when I was younger. Can I admit that to my kids?
Drugs worry me, but how can I feel free to talk about it with my kids?
Questions about drugs and kids? Drug Free Kids Canada.
I am Audrey.
And I'm Leah.
Leah inspired me to play hockey. The Reitamm has helped me by giving me my devices I need to play hockey.
Audrey has an amputation similar to mine.
What does yours do? The stick clicks in it.
My device from the Reitamm allows me to shoot a lot better. It rotates like a wrist, which helps a lot with shooting and stick handling.
When I score a goal, I feel really happy.
Hello everyone, your host Antoine Hashim here on the couch, and welcome to season 8. Yay! 8 seasons. And we've got a lot of awesome guests coming up, so keep watching.
And welcome back to our adorable Adoptable segment with Renee Robbins from the All and Sound Animal Shelter. And she has brought this adorable little guy with her called Newt.
Well, I have, and Newt is a girl.
Oh, Newt is a girl.
I know.
And how can you tell?
I would have thought Newt was also a boy based on Newt's name, but Newt is a girl. Newt, we've just decided, is now a Yorkie, a Chior. I don't know. She is a Yorkshire Terrier Chihuahua mix. You can combine that however you want to, but I think a Yorkie sounds good. I don't know. One of the designer breeds of the future. She is only 8 months old, but she is about full grown. And as you can see, this little thing is a little tiny little dog. Definitely a dog that you can put in a bag, put in your pocket, take it with you, put it in your coat. Easy, easy, easy. However, in saying that, these little guys often can be spoiled. I'm sorry, which means sometimes they can be a little bossy. Now, she's not, so yay for that. But we recommend that you still spend the time to socialize them, get them out to meet people, take them places, actually let them walk on a leash, which she's actually just learning to do now because she's been carried around a very long time. Sorry, yeah, because you're so darn cute. Yeah, because you're so darn cute. She was surrendered to the shelter only a few days ago by her owner, unfortunately. But the good news is we're hoping that she goes fairly quickly, which is why she's here today. A dog of this size is absolutely terrified in the dog room. She's so tiny, the other dogs are so big, and the cages are not really set up for somebody this size. So little Newt is sleeping in our bathroom in her dog crate. She is crate trained and she's quite happy in there. She's wandering around the building. She can't keep doing that, so we really want her to go home, but she is more comfortable there. We certainly have people, I'm sure, who are watching who are very concerned. How's that dog that small, managing at the shelter? And that is how she's managing. She is good with cats. She is afraid of them, but good with them because they are bigger. Also afraid of dogs because they're bigger. If she went home with another dog, I would be very cautious on how that dog is with little, tiny little dogs. Hi, it's super dangerous.
I think she wants to be an only child.
I think she's quite happy being spoiled, and I think she would like that too. In saying that, if she went home with another little dog, that would be better than a bigger dog. Only because the bottom line is that she can get hurt real easy by accident, not even on purpose. Because you're just so darn cute and little. Yeah.
Well, I do have to inquire about the three amigos, the three little kittens that came in last week.
Well, good news. 2 or 3 are gone. Bad news, little Snowball, the one who did not make friends with you, is still looking for a home. And to be honest, it wasn't just you. Little Snowball has been a little odd with people in general. We've been working on it. Snowball is going to go home, still available, and is going to be fine. So I don't want people to, think that I've just said, nope, he's crazy. He's not. He just gets a little spooky, which is okay.
No, well, the other thing too is you want a good match.
Absolutely.
You want Snowball to love the person that's there, and he's just being particularly, particular.
He needs to find his person. That's all. He just needs to find his person.
That's right.
He's doing just fine. He's not missing his siblings, but he would still like to go home.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure he would. Oh, for sure.
Maybe he could go home with you.
And one of the things that we talked about just before we went on camera was the fact that if you're looking to bring home one of these adorable adoptables, one of the strategies is to check with everybody else in the family.
Absolutely. There is no rush. People often act impulsively because they see something on, online or at the shelter, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I have to have it." We like that because it means that you have an interest. But we want you to talk to your kids. We want you to talk to your partner. perhaps you should also talk to your extended family if maybe you need to make arrangements for in the event something happens to you. I hate to be that person, but we're seeing a lot of that. This little lady, for example, being 8 months old, she's probably got 17 years left. That's a long time. Where are you going to be in 17 years? If you're not sure, maybe you need to make a plan B for her. These are things that are super important. We get a lot of senior cats, 13, 14 years old, where their owner has passed and nobody's made arrangements. Those cats do not do well at the shelter. They get very stressed out. Those sort of things need to be planned and figured out. If you're not sure where you're going to be living in 15 years with this little one, maybe it's not time. If you're planning, in her case, she could fit in your pocket, so it's not such a big deal. But if you took some of our bigger dogs and you were planning on downsizing in 10 years, that might not be the dog for you. Talk to us about it. We know breeds, we know types, we know their personality. You might love her because she's so darn cute, but as I mentioned, they can be a little bossy. If you've got toddlers in the house, this might not be the dog for you. We've all met the bossy Chihuahua, let's be honest, right?
So far, so good. So far.
Yeah, but they can be. She is not yet spayed. She's on the list to be spayed, but in all likelihood, somebody's going to adopt her before that happens, which is okay. We're going to charge you a spay-neuter deposit. You're going to get it back. But it's an expense that you will have, so it's important to mention. She will require vaccines for the rest of her life, and dog food and dog care and a little bit of grooming, maybe some baths. These are all things that need to be considered because maybe you are unable to do that. And in which case, we don't want you to call me in 6 months and be like, I never thought of that. Talk to us about it. Come and visit her, but spend the time talking to your family, talking to your extended family if necessary. Maybe your children don't want your dog when you're done with it. Oh, that was a sad face. You were like, what the heck, right? Maybe they don't.
Well, the other thing, too, is we have a little granddaughter who is terrified of dogs. So for her to visit us with the dog would have been trauma for her.
Absolutely.
And so what her family has done is they started socializing her with other dogs to try and break that trauma.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. It's super important. And maybe you live next door to somebody who has a little tiny dog, and maybe you want a big dog. Well, are you prepared to keep big dog away from little dog for the next 6 months? There's so many things to consider. We do our best to try to match the right dog to the right person, but the bottom line is we never really know where that person's going to be in 6 months. We're basing it on where they are now, and it's important for that person to make those considerations. We don't know.
Well, it's great. We're wishing all the best for little Newt in the future, to hear a good story about her next week. And thank you so much for joining us. And join us again next week for Grey County Life on Rogers TV.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
We can be hurt. We can be bruised. We can be broken. Slowed down. Confused, and even numbed. But we can't be defeated. We're built on a foundation that's strong, our mission unwavering, and together we'll beat as one.
From coast to coast, all across Canada, there's something very special going on. It's time to show your support. Time to spread the word.